Welcome to the show. Thanks for being with us another week. A little bit different format here this week on the show because it's time for college football. And we're going to be talking all college football here this week. And instead of starting with our usual features, I'm going to run right into having our guest here, Angel Estrada, former WVU football player and now assistant coach, coaching the defensive backs at West Liberty University. Angel, thanks for being here with me today.
Thanks for having me.
You know, it's college football time. I mean, it seems like it comes quicker every year the older I get. And here we are. And of course, a lot of teams opening it up this week. It always brings a lot of excitement because it's a new season. Don't know what teams are going to do. And we'll talk a little bit about your West Liberty team, and then also a little bit about WVU. And you played in that WVU Virginia Tech rivalry that's being renewed here this weekend. They haven't played for 12 years, but you played in that game. But let's first start talking about West Liberty a little bit, since that's where you are now and coaching the secondary. What can we expect from the Hilltoppers this year?
I'm excited this year. If we stay healthy, I think we're going to make some noise in this league. I mean, we're preseason ranked 6 in the conference, but best group of kids I've been around. I've been up there going in my 8th year, and I'm excited.
You know, one of the things that people may not realize when it comes to Division II football, like West Liberty, is that it's a really high caliber of players still that you get, even though it's not Division I. That these guys, were captains on their teams, stars, all-conference guys, all-state type players, and they may be just a little bit undersized to play at Division I, maybe just not quite quick enough, but there's still a heck of a lot of talent there.
Believe it or not, there's kids that's playing D2 that could actually play D1, but what it comes down to, sometimes it's luck or the draw. I mean, and the one thing D1 has over D2 is depth. Depth is huge, but there's some kids that could play that are playing at West Liberty that could play at West Virginia, because I've been on both sides.
Of course, one of the things that comes with Division II is, instead of taking a flight across the country to go play somewhere else, or just even another part of the East Coast or whatever, it's long bus rides to get from one school in the conference to another from week to week, perhaps, and that's a little bit different dynamic too. But the guys seem to take it in stride, I guess.
It is what it is. There's nothing you could take away from it. But playing D2, them long bus trips, it is what it is. The kids, they camaraderie on the bus. They have fun. They make the best out of it. And us coaches, we just take the ride for the long haul. We're here for the kids, and as long as we're playing on Thursday or Saturday, we're there.
Speaking of Thursdays, a lot of Thursday home games this year for West Liberty. Seen some home games on Thursday sprinkled in years past, but this year there's several Thursday games, which I think is kind of nice for the local fans, because a lot of them are committed to going to high school games on Friday nights and may want to watch WVU, Ohio State, or whoever they follow on Saturdays. But this gives an opportunity with these Thursday games to get up there and do something on Thursday night and see some good football on a Thursday night at West Liberty.
I agree with you. A lot of kids go home on weekends. A lot of students, they go home. But having Thursday night games, all them students come to the game, support the home team, or just to watch football. It gives them something to do.
Yeah, I hadn't really thought about that aspect of it. You're right. With West Liberty, a lot of the students live within a pretty drivable radius to get home. They do go home on the weekends, but Thursday nights they're staying up there on campus. And there's not a ton of stuff to do up at West Liberty anyway. I mean, it's a little bit remote from down here in Wheeling, and so up there on campus, there's not a lot of restaurants or places to hang out or things like that. But to be able to go to the game, I'm sure it does generate a lot more excitement there on the campus, and that benefits a team, I think, when you have people in the stands cheering for you, and it does give a little more of a home field advantage.
I absolutely agree with the whole Thursday night games. It's a beautiful thing for the whole Mountain East Conference, up and down. It's not too far of a drive. All you got to do is just jump on 79 South, and majority of the opponents are there. But teams like Shepherd and Urbana, Notre Dame, I mean, they have to drive. They have a nice, decent drive. But as far as take school from Fairmont, Wesleyan, Charleston, which is about 245. I mean, give or take, but for the fans and for the students, I think it's a beautiful thing.
Talk a little bit about, when you were a player, what a crowd would mean to you. I mean, how do you feed off the crowd? How does that generate excitement, maybe make you play a little bit better when there's people in the stands?
It's me personally, if I had 80,000 fans, if I had 2 fans, you got to take the approach just to play the game. But I know the hype of playing at a big-time school, the fans play a big role in it. Playing at a smaller school, you don't get as much fans, but if you got people supporting you no matter what, you should play the game the way how you should, at 100 miles an hour.
Talk a little bit about being a coach at the Division II level. I mean, what's the preparation like on game week? I mean, what do you look at? What type of preparation goes in looking at film, things of that nature?
Basically, what it comes down to, coaching is a beautiful thing. You're taking young men and you're taking what they want to do, their drive, their life. Everybody wants to go D1, make the NFL, but playing D2 ball, you still have a chance. And me personally, the way how I'm more of a big brother than I am a father figure to these players. So I try to lead by example, try to teach them what to do, how to do it. And it's just not football, it's also off the field, going to class, just not passing your classes. I mean, just graduate with the highest grade point average you could graduate. And that's one thing I try to teach these young athletes, student athletes. It's just not football, it's more to life. But playing football, you're around guys that from New York to California, you get teammates that you would never experience to be around growing up as a youth. So having that, it's a beautiful thing. Kids, the way how they are around each other, they have fun. They get to know different cultures. You get a kid from New York and a kid from Columbus, Ohio, they grew up differently. I mean, different languages, twang, and all that stuff. So the camaraderie that we try to emphasize for the kids, it's lifeless, like it's awesome.
We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll continue speaking with Angel Estrada. We'll talk a little bit about his experience playing at WVU and the big WVU Virginia Tech game this weekend. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
You can love what you drive.
During the summer clearance event, save up to $14,000 on a Ram Hemi 4x4, up to $7,300 on a Cherokee Latitude, $9,000 on a Jeep Compass High Altitude, $6,000 on a Jeep Renegade. Save up to $9,250 on a Jeep Patriot High Altitude, $7,000 on a Dodge Journey, and up to $8,000 on a Chrysler Pacifica.
You can love what you drive at Sunset.
Disasters happen. Pick the team that takes care of them all. Powered by offices in Wheeling, Morgantown, and Pittsburgh, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration is ready to handle any size emergency at a moment's notice. We have the right people, knowledge, and equipment to respond 24 hours a day.
I'm Dana Hogerson. When disaster strikes your home or business, tell your insurance provider you prefer the restoration company the Mountaineers call, Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration.
Welcome back to the show. We're talking college football because it's that time of year, and my guest with me this week is Angel Estrada, West Liberty University assistant coach and former WVU football player. And Angel, let's turn our discussion a little bit to that, to your playing days at WVU. Of course, WVU opens up this Sunday night with Virginia Tech, and of course, you played in that game twice. You were transferred to WVU, and your junior and senior years got to play against Virginia Tech. And what's it like playing, first of all, against a neighboring state with the school that you're at, a rival, so to speak, in that type of atmosphere?
It was a big culture shock for me. Playing junior college, we didn't have much fans. And after that, committed to West Virginia. We go down to Blacksburg, play against the Hokies, and that atmosphere was insane. All you hear is the gobbling from the turkeys. But we were big underdogs that game. And we overcame that and wound up winning the game. But prior to preparation, Coach Rod and his staff, Coach Gibby, they had a game plan for us, and we wound up winning that game.
Of course, talking about Coach Gibby, Coach Gibby's still, calling the shots down there in Morgantown on the defensive side of the ball. Interesting to see that dynamic, a guy that's been around Morgantown and understands what WVU football is all about, and is going to have his, a big task taking on the number 21 team in the country on Sunday night. But you look at this series, and Virginia Tech won the last 2 times they played, but people may not realize it's actually been 12 years since the 2 schools played, and now here they are back at it at a neutral site nonetheless in Washington, D.C. at Redskins Stadium. And so a big matchup right to kick off the college football season. There's a number of them this weekend, but going against a former rival, a ranked opponent, it's got to build a lot of excitement for a program when that happens in the offseason.
I believe it is. The game was scheduled actually for Saturday, and they wound up changing it to Sunday. So West Virginia v. Tech, that's going to be the only game that Sunday played. The bad thing is I'm not going to be able to watch it. We have practice at night, but I'll probably catch the tail end of it. But the fact that the rivalry's back, which is awesome, and it's good for the fans. Fans from West Virginia don't have to drive to Oklahoma, Texas, or fly anywhere. I mean, it's hop, skip, and a jump. You get a couple of hours in a car ride, and the fact that they're playing Virginia Tech again, it's awesome.
People may not remember, but of course, you mentioned Coach Rich Rodriguez. Your first year in Morgantown, your junior year was his first year in Morgantown, and a little bit of a struggle there. The team went 3-8 that year in his first season as head coach. But then the biggest turnaround in Big East Conference history the following year, and the biggest turnaround in the country that year to have a very successful season, go to a bowl game, have finished with 9 wins. What was that like? What was the team's mentality in between those 2 years of trying to turn it around?
Well, the first year, Richard, I was there. It was hard to adapt. I mean, we went from Coach Nealon to Coach Rod. Nealon was more laid back. Rich Rod was more fast-paced. So to adapt to that was tough. We wound up going 3-8. But us seniors, we had that year, and not even seniors, just guys who led by example, wound up changing the program around. We got the Grant Willeys, Rasheed Marshalls, Avon Coburn, Quincy Wilsons, James Dirty Davis, Lance Frazier, Brian King. I mean, we all came together over the summer. We changed it around, changed our program around. But we wound up losing, I'll never forget this, we lost 38-0 in 2001 against VTech. But the following year, we went down there, underdogs, and left that place with a win. I mean, BK got that interception at the end, and everybody did their part. I mean, we emphasized doing your 1/11th on the football field, and that's on and off the field. But going down there, winning, and having the rivalry back, it'll be big for the state.
Of course, you had a great season that year as well. 2-time Big East Defensive Player of the Week, second team All-Conference for the season, and then went on to play some arena and indoor football as well. Of course, people may remember you playing here in Wheeling. When there was still some indoor football here in Wheeling, and very successful. And then went on to the Arena League and played with some of the teams there. And it's got to always be good to get paid to play football, something that you love and enjoy doing anyway.
Right, just like I said earlier, everybody's dreams to play D1 and make it to the NFL, but unfortunately, it didn't work out. But I was able to play and get paid. I mean, I made a comfortable living playing 5 years of arena football, and I'm doing something that I love to do now, coach college ball. So I've always been around the game, and I pursue myself to continue to coach and have fun doing it.
Before we have to let you go here, a quick prediction for this week's West Virginia Tech game. Can you give us a prediction?
I'm going to say West Virginia 32-17.
All right. Sounds good. I hope you're right. Thanks for being here today. I really appreciate it. Good
Thanks
luck
for
to West
having me.
Liberty during the course of the season here.
Definitely.
We need to take a break. When we come back, I'll be talking more college football. We'll talk about this week's matchups and my predictions for the college football Final Four this year. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
Don't forget to do your homework.
All right, Mom. Trick or treat.
Here you go. Happy Halloween.
For your home, for your life, for more than 50 years. DeNoon Lumber.
Tractor trailers are some of the most dangerous vehicles on the road. There are federal rules for load sizes, driver's hours, and maintenance for a reason. When big rigs don't follow these rules, entire families can be torn apart. We have the talent and the resources to take on these large companies. Hopefully, through our work, families are being helped and trucking companies are getting the message about safety. Bordas and Bordas, fighting for justice.
Welcome back to the show. We're going to talk more college football, and I'm going to first run down this weekend's games that you want to make sure you catch. And maybe we can talk about some local games that are teams of local interest that you might want to watch as well. But let's start off with Saturday at noon. The game that you want to watch then is Maryland at Texas. That's on FS1 at noon. The reason you want to watch that game is Tom Herman. He's the new head coach at Texas, and that's a proud program, one that's not been real strong in recent years, no pun intended. Charlie Strong, of course, the former coach there, is out. He's now down in Florida, coaching in South Florida. But the big thing is Tom Herman, former Ohio State offensive coordinator, who then went to Houston and had a great but short run there at Houston. What can he do with Texas now? And I am really eager to see what that team looks like with him in charge. And I think they're going to look really good. I think he's a great coach. So that game's at noon on Saturday. If you don't want to catch that one, of course, maybe a game of local interest is Akron at Penn State on ABC at noon. You can catch that right here, WTRF. I think that Penn State is going to have another fantastic year. The quarterback's back, fun to watch, and that program is one that's kind of clicking now the way that people had come to expect Penn State clicking years ago, decades ago, really now. And of course, they went through a lot of tumult in the aftermath of the Jerry Sandusky scandal, things of that nature. But a great season last year, went to the Rose Bowl, and now kick off this year against Akron. Of course, I like Penn State in that one big. And then at 3:30, a big game that you don't see real often early in the year, Michigan at Florida at 3:30 on ABC. Now, anytime you're watching Jim Harbaugh team, you don't quite know what you're going to get in the opener. Of course, he hides the depth chart, doesn't tell anybody who his starters are. And Florida's kind of playing the same games back because of that. But two big-time programs, going head-to-head right in opening weekend. Down there in Florida, and I don't know how the Michigan guys will react to that, but I think Michigan's going to have another nice season. But Florida's primed to have a good year as well. But I like Michigan in this one. Really important with the slate of games that both teams have in their conferences to get off to a good start. I'll take Michigan by 7 in this game. I think it's going to be a fantastic game. Also at 3:30, Temple at Notre Dame. Of course, need to talk about Notre Dame, my alma mater, and we'll talk a little bit more about them later. But Notre Dame has something to prove here, and this is the home opener is always important. There's a new stadium at Notre Dame, which is part of what makes this so exciting. It's still the same stadium, but it's going to look totally different. Big video board jumbotron that's never been there before. They've built up campus academic buildings on sides of the stadium, so it's going to have a whole different look and feel. They've now got suites on the other side of those academic buildings. So I'm excited to see what the new stadium looks like as much as I am to see the game. But I like Notre Dame in this one. I think it'll maybe start off a little bit slow, but we'll pull away in that one and win by 3 touchdowns when it comes down to it. And then at 8 o'clock at night, the big one, the one everyone's looking forward to, number 1 Alabama against number 3 Florida State on a neutral field. And that's just it's a blockbuster game on opening weekend when you have Alabama, who's been a perennial playoff team here the last several years, against Florida State, who's highly ranked, coming in with a great team. Alabama, to me, is just, with this much time to prepare, Nick Saban's just too good. You give him the whole offseason to get ready for a team. I think they're going to be rolling Jalen Hurd at quarterback, showed what he could do last year as a freshman. I'll take Alabama in that game, although I think it'll be a fantastic game. I'll take Alabama by 10 points. And, after that game starts at 8 on ABC, a little bit later at 9:30 on ESPN as BYU and LSU. And that game will be fun to watch because, Les Miles not at the control for LSU anymore. Ed Orgeron now there as the head coach. And BYU is always a good team that's well prepared. So I think that'll be another fun one to watch if you want to flip back and forth between Florida State and Alabama, when it gets to around halftime. On Sunday, of course, the big game between WVU and Virginia Tech. We'll talk more about that one in a few minutes here. But that's a fun Sunday night game to watch at 7:30 on ABC. And then Monday night, also a college game Monday night. Of course, no Monday Night Football yet in the NFL because the NFL season we're a week away. But Tennessee and Georgia Tech at 8 o'clock on ESPN on Monday night. That'll get you an ESPN Monday night game early in the year here, but on college football. So that's kind of a rundown of the weekend. We'll talk a little bit more about that WVU Virginia Tech game, and also talk a little bit about what I expect the season to look like in college football and who's going to end up in that 4-team playoff, in the college football playoff at the end of the year. We need to take a break. When we come back, we'll talk about all those things and more. Stay with us here on the Jamie Bordas Show.
You can love what you drive.
During the summer clearance event, save up to $14,000 on a Ram Hemi 4x4, up to $7,300 on a Cherokee Latitude, $9,000 on a Jeep Compass High Altitude, $6,000 on a Jeep Renegade. Save up to $9,250 on a Jeep Patriot High Altitude, $7,000 on a Dodge Journey, and up to $8,000 on a Chrysler Pacifica.
You can love what you drive at Sunset.
We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you. We've got it down to a science, an absolute state of art. We do it all, restoration, cleaning, and reconstruction. When disaster strikes, just pick up the phone. We're Panhandle Cleaning and Restoration, and we're gonna save you.
Welcome back to the show. We've been talking college football, and let's continue on with that discussion, and let's lead right in with the WVU Virginia Tech game. Big game on Sunday night, 7:30 on ABC. And, this game is interesting to me because it pits strength against strength in some ways. I think the WVU offense going against the Virginia Tech defense are both teams' strengths. The Virginia Tech defense led once again by Bud Foster, the defensive coordinator who's been there for years. Defensive coordinator under Coach Beamer, now under Coach Fuente as well. And they always have tough defenses in Blacksburg. The WVU offense now with Will Greer at quarterback, and I am so excited to watch him play. I think he is going to be fantastic. A very accurate arm, a great crisp passer. I mean, the ball comes out of his arm hot. I think he's going to be phenomenal. Won a handful of games, the only games he played at Florida when he was a freshman, then faced suspension from the NCAA. And, they didn't play the best teams during that 5-game stretch when he was the starter there. But nonetheless, went undefeated as a freshman there at Florida. And I think he is going to just be spectacular. And I'm really excited to watch him play. The big question will be, the Virginia Tech offense versus the Mountaineer defense. Both may be looking for, pieces to fill, to make the puzzle on both of those units. And I think, though, that the Mountaineers are going to be so good on offense that it's going to be too much for Virginia Tech to hold back. I like the Mountaineers 34-24 on Sunday night. I think the Mountaineers get a big win over a ranked opponent to open the season and to hopefully kick off this season to a very good start for the Mountaineers. Let's talk about the broader picture, the college football playoff. Of course, a 4-team playoff at the end of the year. Here are my picks. First of all, I like Ohio State. They got embarrassed last year in the college football playoff. Clemson beat them 31-0. I think it's the only time that an Urban Meyer team has been held scoreless in his career. And of course, what a wonderful career it's been. Their first test will really be the September 9 game against Oklahoma next weekend. That, of course, a big matchup against them. Oklahoma will have a new coach. That's by surprise, really. Of course, Bob Stoops retires, and now Lincoln Riley running the show there in Norman, kind of unexpectedly a coaching change in June. So I think Ohio State will win that game against Oklahoma, and I think that'll catapult them toward an ultimate college football playoff berth. A tough, of course, Big Ten schedule to get through. Anytime you've got teams like Michigan, Penn State, Wisconsin sitting in your conference, you're going to have a tough time. But Ohio State has shown, and Urban Meyer really has shown his ability to get his team ready for big games. Next pick for the college football playoff, Alabama. Why? Because they're there every year. Nick Saban just has that program rolling. Barring some type of disaster, I think they're going to be there. Of course, they have the big opener we talked about against Florida State on Saturday night. But even if they would stub their toe there, I like Alabama. It's just tough to see an Alabama team ended up with more than one loss during the course of a season, and a one-loss Alabama team is going to be in the playoff. Next, I like Oklahoma State. Why? Well, they don't have any tough games really until late October, when they have to go at Texas, at WVU, and then Oklahoma in 3 weeks in a row. And by that time, I think they'll have enough confidence built. They'll have been rolling a little bit. And I think, even if they get 2 out of the 3 of those games, there's now a Big 12 championship game this year. First time ever there's a Big 12 championship game, or first time in a long time. So now there's going to be this Oklahoma State team that I think is going to be strong. I think that Oklahoma, they're going to have some struggles because of the first-year head coach. I don't care how good he's been as a coordinator. They're going to struggle a little bit. So I like Oklahoma State to find their way into that playoff. And my last team, all right, it's a little bit of a homer pick. I'm going to go with Notre Dame. I do every year. It's my alma mater. But I really do believe, last year Notre Dame lost 7 games in the fourth quarter. They get both Georgia and USC at home. And the offensive line, they have 2 of the best offensive linemen in the country, and Quentin Nelson and Mike McGlinchey there on the offensive line, and that's a big factor for me always. Of course, they have to finish the season at Stanford, and they also have Miami and Michigan State mixed in on that schedule. But the good thing about that is there are a lot of tests against different conferences there. Of course, Georgia out of the SEC, USC and Stanford out of the Pac-12, Miami out of the ACC, who I think will give Florida State a real run for the ACC title, and Michigan State out of the Big Ten. So a lot of different conferences there to prove themselves against. That means I think that the Pac-12 champ and the ACC champ will be left out of the playoff this year. I think Stanford wins the Pac-12. That's one of the reasons I think Notre Dame will be able to get in, is that if with the win over Stanford, the Pac-12 champ, they could get in. And I also like Florida State to win the ACC, but with 2 losses. I think they'll lose to Alabama in this opener. And then they've also got to see at Clemson, Miami, Louisville on the schedule, and they also have to go to Florida in a non-conference game. You talk about a non-conference schedule. Alabama and Florida is your non-conference, 2 of your non-conference opponents for Florida State. And then they also have to play in that ACC title game. So I think just too tough of a schedule for Florida State to get there. If they get through that schedule with 0 or 1 losses, they're in. But I just think it's going to be too tough to get through that schedule with only 1 loss. So Ohio State, Alabama, Oklahoma State, and Notre Dame are my picks to get to the Final Four. And then I'm going to go this year with Ohio State to win it all, because I think that Urban Meyer is going to be awfully motivated after the way they lost that college football playoff game last year, 31-0 to Clemson. I think he'll have the Buckeyes rolling, and they'll have a great season. And I think that at the end of the year, they'll be holding the championship trophy. So I'll take Ohio State to win it all this year. That's all the time we have this week. I hope that you enjoy the start to the college football season. Good luck to your teams. Have a lot of fun watching. Next week, we'll talk about pro football. Thanks for watching. We'll see you next week on the Jamie Bordas Show.